And we're delighted to have with us today staff from Castlebar Primary School, part of our London Special Hub, to share their journey with us regarding parent-carer partnerships. So I'd just like to take the opportunity to welcome Melanie, Stella, Nathalie and Aisha, who I will shortly be handing over to. But before I do, I'm just going to run through a few housekeeping rules, if that's okay, regarding the Zoom session. Do introduce yourself in the chat if you haven't already, and make sure your screen name shows your full name and school for us to check your attendance and to help with the Q&A later. Please remain muted throughout the session to avoid any background noise, and add any comments or questions to the chat as we go along. Please also note this session will be recorded for sharing on our website for others in the network. If you'd not like to be included in this, please do drop me a private message. And finally, feedback forms will be shared at the end of the session. So if you'd kindly take the time to fill this out, it really will help us to be able to shape our future events. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Melanie, who's going to start sharing her slides and begin the session. Thanks very much.
Okay. Oh, yes, you need to stop sharing her screen.
Oh. I think you'll need to stop sharing your screen, Carrie. Is that right?
Apologies, yeah, my mistake.
That's okay. Yeah. I thought it was me.
No, sorry, that was my bad. Thank you.
So I'm going to do this one. Share. That's it, isn't it? That's not right, is it? Oh yes, this one. Lovely. Okay, so thank you for coming to this session this afternoon. It's good to see so many people here. So this afternoon, myself and a couple of other colleagues are going to attempt to just share some of the work that we've been doing at Castlebar Special School in Ealing with our parents. So I'm going to start by sharing some of the processes that we have in place, which many of you have probably got in place as well, and you'll be very familiar with them. But I think it might be just good because it can raise a conversation to see how things are working for you as we share what we're doing. Later in this session, a couple of my colleagues are going to share some particular work that they're doing at the moment with parents, and this is the work that they're doing is really just going to enhance the work that's already in place in terms of the engagement of parents and the relationships that we're so proud of at the moment. So as with your own schools, if you are in a special school, you'll be aware that over the years we've had a real change in cohort of pupils. So at the moment, Castlebar School is a school for pupils with severe learning difficulties and complex needs. We have 162 pupils in the primary school, and we have over 100 staff. So when I originally started at the school, which was many moons ago, and I was teaching here, the school was very different in the sense that we were smaller. There were only 80 children in the school, and we had 2 members of staff in every class, 12 classes. So we were very small at that point. But the one thing that has never changed for us is the sense of community that has always been in the school, and the sense of commitment of staff to work with the pupils and the families. And going back all those years ago, one of the main things that I will always remember about this school was the fact that the pupils that we taught would often come back to visit. Those pupils had moderate learning difficulties, but they saw us as part of their family, really. So moving on now, we're obviously a much bigger school, And we now have the same code of practice, which actually tells us how important working with parents is to create that working environment that's going to support our children to the best that we can. So the key questions for us have been, how can we engage with parents effectively to benefit the pupils that we teach? How can we reach out to those who are more reluctant to communicate and engage with the schools? How can we reach out to and learn from our colleagues in health and social care? This can be the key to effective partnerships with parents if we are proactive in harnessing support and care around the child. And we just need to look at how is effective working with parents fundamental to the high quality provision. So those are the key questions that we have considered always in our working partnerships with parents. So if I look at the creating the community to begin with, and I'm thinking more of our formal connections in the terms of these are the type of non-negotiables really. These are the things we have to have in place. I'm just going to talk about a couple of the areas on this list, particularly transition into school and our meetings and visits, because obviously transition is such an important part of a child's life, coming into the school and actually leaving us as well. And we put a lot of emphasis on supporting parents and pupils through the transition, which can often be very worrying and an anxious time for parents and pupils. So our transition into school, into the early years, begins with visits from senior leadership staff that go into schools to meet those pupils and to actually see the pupils in their settings. And then we actually meet with the parents and the pupils. They come for a visit to the school. That's their first opportunity to see the school. And this is followed by transition meetings with parents in school. And those meetings, when the parents actually come in here, must feel quite formal for them. But we actually try to make it less formal when they're here by having group activities where they get to talk to other parents and they get the opportunity to ask members of staff the questions that are worrying them. Often those questions are about who's going to help my child eat at lunchtime because my child won't eat what other people eat. How do I know he's going to get his food and that he will be okay? And so all those little questions that might seem tiny to us because we're busy giving them instructions about uniforms and attendance, all those little questions that they really need to know are given the opportunity to be asked within a safe environment in small groups. At the transition meeting as well, they get the opportunity to meet the multidisciplinary team that we work very closely with. And the multidisciplinary team have a lot to do with our parents during the year, working beside teachers to deliver training programs and to also do home visits and to do other structured conversation meetings. So we're very much working as a whole team when we meet with the parents. So the messages that are coming from the multidisciplinary team are the same as the messages that are coming from the staff at the school. So in terms of the transition into the school then, we also have an afternoon where parents come in with their children into the early years setting and they spend an afternoon in that area of the school. And it can be informal and it's a little bit more formal at times, but it gives them a real feel for how the school actually works during the day. And they get the opportunity to talk to the teachers, they see the children, and their children get the opportunity to play in the playground, look at some of the other resources that are available for them, ready for their learning. So that's about transition. And then at the other end of the school, when they actually leave us, again, we really support the parents so that they're finding the right setting for their children to move into. And we have very close contact with one particular secondary school where a lot of our children go. So that there's a lot of transition opportunities between the schools, and the parents get the opportunities to visit the new settings as well. Moving on from there, I just want to talk a little bit about our structured meetings during the year. These would be our parent meetings, really. And we have 3 meetings in the year. And we base our meetings around the structured conversation. And the reason we do this is because the structured conversation actually took us away from those short parent meetings that maybe lasted 15, 20 minutes. And those meetings were really about discussing progress with parents. And at the very beginning, when I was here initially, those conversations were all about looking at the books with the parents and talking about the progress. And because the timings were so short, there wasn't really a lot of time for us to talk about the parents and how they felt about their child and about their child's future, and also about their aspirations. So the structured conversation brought in a structure, and there's a little diagram there on the screen for you to see. It brought in a structure that supported teachers to actually lead a meeting where there was a very clear opportunity to find out how the parents actually felt about their pupils themselves, about their children, and about what they wanted for their child in the future, and what were they worrying about in terms of their child's development. What was it they really wanted their child to be able to do by being at school and as they got older. So I'm not sure how many people, I can't see anybody, but I'm just wondering how many people have actually used the structured conversation. I'm just asking Stella if she can see the chat, or even if you can just show a thumbs up if you've actually used the structured conversation. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about it because some of you may know this already. So the part that we use this structure because it fits in very well with our school, because we are very interested in that coaching approach, and this structure is very similar to using a coaching approach, but we're doing this with parents. So the first part would be explore, where the parents actually get that opportunity to, oh, okay, lovely. So some of you are using this already. So that would be interesting when you get the opportunity to have a chat in groups to see how it works for you. We find it very useful to give the parents that opportunity to talk about their children at the beginning of the session. And the teachers have had their training, so they're able to then bring the conversation more into focus, where they can actually start to think about what is it that the parents would like to achieve for their child in that year. And the teachers obviously have their own ideas as well, and the teachers may be thinking more around the academic side of things, but with the main thing is what the parents want, and it's all about the well-being of the child. So then the plan is put in place, and there are shared targets written for the year, and those targets are revisited throughout the year between the teacher and the parents. So there may be a situation where a target has been set, maybe it's about bedtime, having a successful routine in place to go to bed at home, and there will be a check-in between the teacher and the parent throughout the year to make sure that there is progress in that area. And then obviously targets will change accordingly, but that collaboration has been set up during the structured conversation so that things can move forward, and the parents are playing a significant role in setting targets for their child. So at the end, there's a review so that everybody's very clear on what those targets are and where they're going with them. So our structured conversation is part of the three meetings within the year, and our annual review falls within those as well. So that's a really important part of our year, working with the parents, is to have those structured conversations. And the parents will refer to them as the structured conversations. They know what they're about and they know what they'll achieve within them. It's all very clear. So in terms of the transition, if I go back to the transition, the other thing that we do throughout the year is our prospective parents mornings. So I'm just choosing those three areas for now, because the prospective parents morning is again about welcoming people into the school, because that first impression is so important. And when parents come in, as long as they feel welcome from the beginning, that will give us a really good start. And sometimes we know that there are parents coming to us that are very anxious and nervous about the future for their children, or they may have had bad experiences already in terms of their children and being accepted. It could be around behaviours. It might just be about the fact that their needs, their general needs. So when they come into the school and they see that they are made welcome and that there's an understanding of what's going on for them, that is really, really helpful. Okay. All right. So of course we've got all those formal situations set up within the school that work very nicely for us, but we're also about building the relationships with parents. And every year we say to the staff, the teachers in their classrooms, they all have a telephone in their classroom, and every year we say to them, use that telephone, get to know your parents. Don't feel bad that you're ringing them. Just give them a call. It doesn't have to be just because there's a problem. Don't forget the power of sending the positive message. So our teachers very quickly build this relationship with their with their parents because of using the telephone. We don't see our parents every day. We see a small group of them because most of the children come on their buses. So it's really important that we are making that contact with them to develop the relationships. And what we find is that everything isn't always smooth and hunky-dory when we're having conversations with parents. But once we have built that relationship, sometimes when you have to deal with sensitive issues, it's actually easier because that relationship has been built. So we use our telephone, we use the homeschool book, and we encourage the parents to actually respond within the book, let us know what's happening at home, and we let them know. And I think what's been really useful is to use photographs. So parents are actually doing that as well now. They take photographs of what the child has been doing at home and they send them back to school, and then that's shared at school. And there's an ongoing dialogue through the homeschool book. We are very fortunate to have our own school social worker who obviously makes contact with all the parents and is there as a listening ear, but also as a formal support when needed. So obviously if parents have difficulties filling out forms because of housing and other respite issues, the school social worker is on hand to support, and her relationship with the parents is very, very positive. So then we have our invitation to other events. We have lots of concerts, assemblies, discos. We have a summer fair, and parents are invited to all of these events. And I mean, what we do find is that we're now emailing and we're texting. We know that we need lots of reminders to attend these events, but actually you feel like sometimes you might be actually burdening them by contacting them too often. But no, the more you invite them, the better the attendance. So I think they appreciate a reminder to attend some of these events. Our parent workshops are they are ongoing, and we have a new booklet printed every year with parent workshops that are going to be useful to the parents that we're working with. And those parent workshops are run by teachers, they're run by teaching assistants, and they're run by the multidisciplinary team. So it could be our occupational therapists or our speech and language therapists. All parents have access to therapists, and our therapists work so closely with us that it means that, you know, the messages are all the same that are going to the parents. They use a facilitative approach, so the staff are able to deliver the programs in class. And yes, and the multidisciplinary team, so the occupational therapists and the speech and language therapists, will hold regular coffee mornings. And during those coffee mornings, there will be sharing of resources, sharing of strategies. There will be video clips and lots of opportunities to share stories and share messages together to support families. Home visits take place, obviously, for the younger children when they're transitioning into school, but we are always open to doing home visits as well for any of our parents that find it difficult. If they can't come in to meet us in school, then we will do a home visit to them. Often the school social worker may do a visit with the teacher, or the teacher may do a visit with one of the multidisciplinary team. Okay, so I think we're going to take a little break into breakout rooms now. So it'll give you an opportunity to meet each other and to just talk about some of the things I've mentioned, because I'm sure there are things that you've all got happening in your school as well. But then if in the breakout rooms, then if you've got any questions, then you can come back to us with those questions and maybe a little summary of what's working for you.
Thanks so much, Melanie, and thanks for everything you've said so far. I've just popped a few questions in the chat which came from the agenda just to help prompt discussion, and I'm going to send you all out into individual breakout rooms now.
Oh, okay, sorry, I had a little technical hitch there. Does anybody want to share anything that's come up in the little groups? Does anybody like to share?
Oh yeah, I think my name's Stella, I'm from PLT School. I think it was more information around structured conversations. That's what we're looking for. We actually had I had a quick Google just to make sure that I was actually knew exactly what that meant, because I know that I've been working with families for some time now, but I know I've done numerous training and I didn't know if it was changed in any way. But I was just Googling, we were discussing that.
Okay. So, do you find it useful? Do you use the structured conversation?
We don't. It's not that. Yeah. But that's why I was just reading up on it, because there was some information online from the school that had done a parent-friendly leaflet, and they were saying what would be a structured conversation meeting to replace a parents' evening, and it set out to say this would be kind of the parent-friendly agenda of the meeting. So it was it's very much, as you say, structured. It wasn't just an open conversation.
Yeah, and I think the benefits, like for us, is that I think teachers felt they weren't being rushed from one meeting to another, but that because the whole point of the structured conversation is allowing that time for the conversation to develop and they felt more comfortable then because they were able, as part of the structure, it's about sitting and listening to the parent and then taking the conversation on from there. So I think that really helped, that you didn't feel that you were in a rush. And the whole point is to be very clear with parents that this is the time that we've got for the structured conversation, and this is how we're going to start. So it's very easy to work through once you get used to the actual process. Yeah. Anybody else like to share? No? Okay. So I'm just going to move on very quickly. I have put a couple of things here about the pandemic, because obviously that was a really trying time for everybody, and things did need to change. But I'm actually going to just move on from this slide because my colleagues are going to talk a little bit more about their work during the pandemic, because the project was very much a part of supporting parents during that time. And I'm just going to, what's that one? I'm just going to finish. I was just going to talk about 3 children that were with us. And again, back to these successful transitions, because it's a time when it can be very an anxious time for parents as much as children. And I just wanted to talk about 3 different pupils that we had in school, and what their transitions were like. So just a very quick little snapshot. Our first pupil, William, was a little boy who came here with his twin brother about 5 years ago. And William is from the traveller community. So when William came into school, there was a lot of issues around behaviours and things that needed to be worked with. But we also had 2 very nervous parents who found it hard really to trust the systems that were in place for education. So they were very distrustful, they were nervous, they weren't sure why we were doing things, and were we just having a go at them the whole time? Was it just them that were being asked about certain things? And it was hard at the beginning to just kind of actually make them feel that they could trust us. But we worked so hard with the family, and a lot of that was sometimes it was just chatting to them, it was being nice to them, it was asking them how life was for them at home, how were their children, how were they getting on for their holidays. So it was engaging in just conversations with them, and then it was also being very clear about why we were doing things. So again, you'll all appreciate that sometimes attendance can be quite an issue for children who come from this community. So we had to talk about attendance with them. But once they knew why we were asking these questions and what we were going to suggest and why we were doing that, they felt much more comfortable. So it took a long time to build that trust, but we were actually able to build that trust with the family, to the point that the family started turning up to discos, which we were delighted to see them. And there was also the issue about not letting their children go on school trips because they were scared that something might happen to them. But we worked our way all the way through that, so to the point that their children were allowed to go on school trips. And then one of our biggest achievements for any of our children is when they actually move on to another setting, because they have made so much progress here at Castlebar. And William was able to move into an additional resource provision at another school in Ealing. And the nicest thing was that obviously it was a very stressful time again for the parents, because they were nervous, they trusted us, but now one of their children was moving out. And the parents actually rang the teacher and asked her to go with her to the other setting. So that was a really good feeling to know that that family really trusted us enough to ask for help when they needed it, and this little boy moved on. And our second pupil here is a little boy called Adam. Now, in our school, we have our children are in mixed ability groupings, but we do have a few classes that we would call our high ratio. So these are for the children who have more complex needs. Now, Adam was a gorgeous little boy who was in one of our high ratio classes, but his mom was a really involved in the community here at Castlebar. She brought a lot to the community in terms of supporting events that were going on here. She was just absolutely delightful. And after a while, we realised that Adam really needed a different provision to support him with his needs. And we worked with Adam's mom, because when we knew that we were going to suggest Adam would be best placed in a different provision, we all said, oh no, but we just love having Adam and his mom here at school. And it was really hard to say goodbye. But we worked with mom, and she was involved with the multidisciplinary team where we made plans to alter the curriculum for Adam. And he successfully moved to another school that was more appropriate for him. And glad to say that Adam and his mom often come back to our events here at Castlebar now. And then the last pupil, and I'm hoping I can show you this video clip, is a boy who was here about 8 or 9 years ago. So he must have left us about 8 or 9 years ago, and he moved into a mainstream secondary provision. But it's just really just to kind of show what a community we are, that as a teaching school, we were delivering a conference, and we really wanted Victor to speak at our conference. And we knew that we could call Victor's mom and dad, and that we could ask them, is that something that Victor would like to do? And could we talk to Victor? And they were delighted to hear from us, as was Victor. And we've got a little clip of him talking at our conference that I'd like to show you. So I'm going to hopefully show you just a tiny little part of what he said for the conference. Is it gone? Oops. It's all gone. Sorry, just bear with us for one moment. Yeah, that's it. So move it on to.
Do you want to hide thing?
Oh, it's not working.
I think you need to press both of them.
Oh, yeah, go to 140. That's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you think back to Castlebar, what do you remember about Castlebar?
Oh, so much, so much. I mean, I try to think of things that happened here. So much friends I had. I'll give you a few: Mr. Rahimi, Jeffrey Kamofa, Aaron Craig, Kadjini, Kadjitini, Jay Thompson, me, Abdullah, and so much happened. Just had good friends, good vibes. It was great. And the teachers as well, you know, very nice, lovely. They helped me so much for the years I was here. And, I still remember them, for who they've been to me. And yeah, it's been great.
And do you still keep in touch with all those friends?
Yes, I do. Through social media, Facebook and Instagram mostly.
And so when you left Castlebar, where did you go to?
After Castlebar, I went to Twyford, Church of England High School.
What was that like? How was that different?
it was very different. I'll be honest, when I was at Twyford, I didn't have the best start possible because I still felt that, you know, Castlebar was still home to me, and so I hadn't adapted to like Twyford life. So within a few weeks later, I started adapting, and that's when, you know, progress started getting good, and you know, I became more used to Twyford.
And have you got a lot of friends now from Twyford?
Yes, a lot of friends. I still follow them on social media and other stuff, and we still keep in touch whatsoever.
And of course, Victor, when I spoke to you, we were really pleased about here is to think that you've now gone forward with your music.
Yeah.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really great.
So what about the future then? What do you think you might do in the future?
In terms of the future, right now, I mean, obviously I'm in uni, but also recently, I've now been, you know, getting into like touring, session work with a lot of artists, musicians all together, and yeah, hopefully with who knows, I'll be on the big stages playing for major artists soon. Yeah.
And of course, Victor, you're here today, so we couldn't let you go
Yeah.
without asking you to play us something on the piano.
Oh yeah. It'll be a pleasure to.
I'll just stop it there. Thank you, Victor.
Thank you so
much. Okay, it's the head of the back. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah.
God, I'm so
From
very slow. Oops. Okay, so that was Victor. I'm just going to hand over now to one of our, well, ex-parents, but who's still very much with us and supporting us, Aisha. And Aisha is also one of our governors. So Aisha, are you there?
I am here.
Shall I hand over to you, Aisha?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. Apologize. I was trying my best to make it home in time for this meeting, but the traffic today is just insane. So I'm still in my car, but I've got, but I should still be able to talk to you. So, you know, I've just been listening in for the last half an hour or so. And as always, I'm always struck by how much Castlebar undersells itself in terms of what they do for us as parents. You know, the community we have at Castlebar is simply unparalleled to anything I've experienced before. And it's not just about the workshops and the structured conversations and, you know, all the other wonderful stuff that they do. It's about how approachable the staff is, how visible the senior leadership team is. You know, you often see the head teacher and Melanie and all the senior leadership team at the gates, you know, when you drop off, when you pick up. They are such a visible and real part of our everyday experience when it comes to Castlebar. And they have such a approachable, open door type policy that it makes it, you know, there's no barriers as far as approaching the senior leadership team goes, or as far as speaking to the teachers go. It's always been very, very open. They're always very welcoming. And it really strikes you as soon as you go through those doors. In addition to all the amazing work that the school does, I also run a support service for the parents. So we meet, we have coffee mornings every month or every 6 weeks or so. In the past, they've been in school, but at the moment we're doing them via Zoom. We also do a number of, you know, events that are for the parents only. So we put together a Christmas Bazaar every year, which is usually tied up with the Christmas concert. So all the parents can come in. We have a little bazaar. We have food and drink and things like that. And it's an opportunity for the parents to be in school and to be able to interact with each other without the children being there. In addition to that, we also do mums nights out. We do, the school runs a whole bunch of Saturday trips as well. So there's lots of opportunity for staff to meet with parents, for them to be out in the community in a supported environment, because otherwise our parents find it very challenging to go out in the community and to access public spaces, because they fear what would happen if the child has a meltdown, or, you know, being out with siblings, it can be quite challenging. But when we all go out as a community, it feels more supported and it feels more controlled. So there's all of this, this stuff that happens. In addition to that, I usually do turn up to the induction mornings every year. I have to admit, it's my favorite part of the year. Coming along, seeing those new parents, reassuring them, and making sure that they know that they are going to be well supported here. We also run a buddy program. So any new parents that come in, if they would like to have a buddy assigned to them, then we assign an older, a parent who's been in the school for a long time to them. They exchange numbers, and that way they have a single point of contact for any questions that they may have, or any concerns, or if they just want to talk or do whatever else, then that opportunity is available as well. The coffee mornings that are run are not structured. Usually, there are sometimes more targeted coffee mornings around a particular subject that's come up. We did one around high school transitions and things like that. So, sometimes we do more targeted ones, but more often than not, they're just an opportunity for parents to come along, talk about anything that they want to talk about. And there's always good cake when we meet in person. So that's a sort of a flavor of what the parents do for each other. It is a community that is fairly well entrenched in the sense that a lot of the parents that have moved on from the school, the children that have moved on from school, they still come along to some of the events, to some of the coffee mornings, like Adam's mom that Melanie was just mentioning, and a few others. They remain part of our community. And we also run, I also run a Facebook group. So parents have the opportunity to engage there, to talk about issues. And there's also a lot of information sharing and things like that, so that everybody's aware of what's going on. So that's kind of what the parent support group does. We, through the COVID period, tried to adapt the format to be as available to parents as possible, as accessible. I do work closely with the school social worker to identify any, she feels that there's any particular parent that needs support, then she will ask them if I can contact them. And then either myself or one of the other sort of older parents who've been around for a while, we will contact them and try and offer some support wherever we can. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, unless anyone has any questions for me. No? All right. I'll stop talking then.
Thank you very much, Aisha. That was really useful. So would you like to?
Yeah, okay. So moving on now. Hi, I'm Nathalie, and I'm a teacher here at Castlebar. And this is Stella.
Hello.
A middle leader here. And we just want to share with you today some of the work we've been doing on a project we've been doing this year to enhance parental engagement in the school.
Great. I'm going to share my screen. Oops. Great.
Okay.
Oops. Yes. I think
Yeah. Can everyone see that okay? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so we've been doing a family school partnership project, and then the aims that we have, what we wanted to achieve from this project was to provide a partnership between home and school, ensuring that families feel supported, welcome and valued. We wanted to work on raising awareness of the types of activity going on in school. We wanted to increase parents' understanding of their child's education in general, and so they feel involved with it and understand it more. We wanted to improve the quality of help given by parents at home and in school. And then, because we had quite a few challenges this year with the lockdown, we wanted to support parents and pupils with their home learning during the pandemic. And lastly, we wanted to monitor the impact of parental engagement and to identify some areas for development.
So what we did when we first started our journey, we sent some surveys to the parent, teaching staff and the governor to identify areas of development. As you can see on the little picture, one of the areas that we wanted to work on, it was a home learning that the parents felt that they need more support with. So that's how we decided our, school priorities. Do you want to?
Yeah. Okay. So the two priorities that we found, the priority one was for parents to show increased understanding of the curriculum. We wanted parents to feel more confident in supporting their children in learning at home during periods of self-isolation, for example, in the lockdown. And the second priority, we wanted to work on monitoring and keeping evidence of parental engagement going on in the school. And this includes, for example, workshops, coffee mornings, or feedback from annual reviews. So we could use these to identify any more areas for development. So if I just start with the first priority, which was developing home learning, we felt that we really needed a lot of work on this because when children were suddenly at home, everything had to change basically because of the lockdown restrictions. So what we did was we created a platform online via G Suite. We used Google Classroom. And then through this, teachers were able to post work for individual children. So this included work that could be printed off at home, but it was also in the form of links, a website, videos, things like that. All resources that could support children at home. And then also the Google Classroom gave teachers the opportunity to interact virtually via Google Meets. So we found this effective, especially for our more kind of sensory learners, because teachers were able to actually sing and provide actions and visuals and things like that, because they actually could see them online. Yes, and they were very well received, these Google Meets.
So how we started is that we, unfortunately, due to COVID, our face-to-face coffee morning that we talked about earlier was postponed due to COVID. Yellow and green department that we are working on this. We are on this department. We set up some virtual coffee mornings, and we invited all the parents to discuss about the home learning because we knew that might come up later on due to pandemic. In this meeting, we discussed together how we can support these parents to support their children at home. So we provided the step-by-step guide, and we demonstrated during our coffee morning. We sent some guides at home with every step, every step of how to log in and how to support, download the video, how to print or download these worksheets or any activities that we were sending. The platform gave the parents the opportunity to comment on how the child performed this activity, and that helped us to monitor their progress at home. So we really encouraged that, and loads of parents have written lots of lovely comments with their children or what they found really difficult. So we worked around this. Another thing that we worked on within our classes was a terminal newsletter that we prepared as a cluster to support parents to get to know the curriculum a little bit better, what activities we do, what topic we do, what they can do to support their children at home. And that really supported the more sensory learners as well, because it had some more practical ideas to support them. So this is the parent feedback form that we received from a coffee morning. It was really nice to see that all the parents found it really helpful. Some of the comments, let me move that to, oops. Sorry. Some of the parent comment was that it's very helpful for their communication as PEC will be used at home. Or another parent said, everything was explained properly, so I can now log in and carry on with my child work. So we did enjoy reading, the positive comments to the parents and how much the positive impact it has on the parents. So this is the guide that we sent as well to the parent, just a sample of how easy it was and how clear it was for the parent to access it. So this is the newsletter that we sent home for every term. So we obviously that's for the yellow department. We inform the parents about what topic we're doing, what workshop we're doing as well for the summer term, the importance of the parent support at home, just to remind them as well that their engagement is really important for their child progress in school. So these are some ideas that we've talked about. We included what we're doing numeracy, what we're doing literacy. For some of our sensory learners that they were taking part in the intensive interaction program, that was again one of the ideas that they can the parents can take on board and do at home. And then that goes on, and that's the green one, which is year 1 and year 2 children. And again, the special events or projects that we're doing in the school, topics, workshops, different ways of different topics that we were doing, different activities that the parents can do with their children at home. It doesn't take a long time to prepare it. And I think we received a really good feedback from the parents, and they really wanted, to try these at home.
It just makes them feel a little bit more included as well, so they can just see snapshots of the kind of things we're doing and how they can do that at home as well. And we tried to make it very kind of clear and simple for them to look at. Yeah, and we can just send it home every term. Yeah.
And then what we've agreed with the whole school is that next year all the clusters will do this letter, and we'll send it either every term or every half term, every half a year, just to include what they were learning in school. How can they, if they want to do something at home, what can they do at home, or how can they support their children at home? And as you can see, it's very simple, as Nathalie said.
Yes, and so what we really tried to focus on developing throughout the pandemic especially was how we could help parents work with children at home that needed such special kind of attention, really. So children that that can't sit down and kind of do work, kind of sheets or that kind of based work. We wanted to support parents in supporting them. So we were sending home examples of attention autism, kind of attention building activities, and examples of how to deliver intensive interaction with children at home. We did this to try and incorporate meeting different learning styles and to raise awareness in general of how all learners can be met at home, not just in school.
and we're going to show you some videos of some of our video calls with the children. Oops. Oh, I can just go straight. So,
Right, Muhammad, we'll read you a story. We'll read you story time. Pepper. Okay? Pepper and George are all ready for bed. Time for a bedtime story, says Daddy Pig. Okay. I like stories about princesses, Daddy, says Pepper.
she's so cute.
George. Roar, says George. He likes stories about dinosaurs. Right, Daddy begins Daddy Pig with a great sword. Like George. What? They had a very busy day. Okay. They were very tired, so they went to bed. Said Daddy Pig. Look. Can you see that they're in bed? Yeah. Night, 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 George. The end. It's finished. Okay then, let's all be quiet. Muhammad, we need to go now because the children need to get on the bus. Okay, so we're going to say goodbye to you. See you later.
So we have one more video. I know that this is a lovely video.
Watch Stella.
So
we are put the pom-pom down, point it, look at Stella, pointing with your fingers like this. Yeah, pointing with She tries hard. Stella, pointing down.
I think I didn't.
That was amazing, Kiara.
Yeah. So these was some of our videos. Oops. I think it's. I'm not sure if I'm connected. Can you hear us?
No, we're still muted.
No, we can hear you. We can hear you, Stella.
Yeah, I think it's loading. There's an issue with the connection. So these are the two videos that are short videos of our online session. And we just wanted to point out how important it is to involve the parents into their learning. As you could see in these two examples, the parents tried really hard to engage their children and support their children during these live videos. And we're very proud that the majority of our parents were very engaged during that COVID and lockdown. Would you like to add anything?
It was really well received. I think it was quite hard getting everyone's head around it, but I think the parents really appreciated it and it boosted the involvement I think now, quite a few teachers are in even more contact than they were before because of that COVID time, because we were talking on the phone and through the Google Meet. So something positive came out of that situation there.
Yeah. And this is I'm sorry, I can't present this, but because of the internet. So this is the second priority, which is the measuring the impact. So we found out that we do a lot of workshops and the parents are being very involved in the school, but we don't really have actually a report to show how the parents are involved. Although we do send feedback forms from the workshops, we don't have a report to show what went well in the workshop or areas of development to share them with people that are delivering the workshops in order to meet the parent needs as well. So we would like to improve the targeted service, helping to narrow the gap in attainment and improve the outcomes of the children, to provide evidence for governors, Ofsted and others, and celebrate the success of the work and share it with all stakeholders and share the impact with the parent to show them the difference they can make. So we are in the process of doing this report at the moment. So we're thinking of different ways of how to include everything that we do to parents and how we can measure that. So this is something that we are currently taking into consideration the feedback from the annual reviews, the workshops, and parent survey that we send specifically for the parental engagement as well. And this is something that will be shared with everyone at the school, including the governors, teachers, and the parents. Would you like to? Are we going to the break room? Oh, okay.
Carrie could organise it.
Yeah, Carrie, would you like to give them the opportunity to go into the break rooms and discuss about how they feel about the project, what they could, take on board from now on, and plan how the parental engagement will be planned go ahead from now on?
Sure, I can do, Stella, if you wish, just to note that there's only just under 15 minutes left to the end of the session.
Okay.
I don't know if you'd rather have Q&As instead.
Yeah, would you like to ask the questions then?
If anyone has any, otherwise.
Yeah. Does anyone have any question? Would you like to come in here? Oh, I think we have in the chat. Yeah.
I think we have a few people having to leave, unfortunately. But if anyone else does have any questions for Stella and Nathalie, or indeed for Melanie, if she's still there, anything that's come up during the session, it's been really useful to hear from you all. I really enjoyed the video content as well. I think that really helped to illustrate the kind of things that we're doing at Castlebar. So thank you so much for sharing. I think despite the kind of technical lags, it was really nice to have that content. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions or?
Hello, I have a question, just really about going back to the beginning about your contact books and how much information do you actually share on a daily basis with parents?
Well, I'll say something, but I'm sure the girls are probably, because they're using the contact books anyway. I mean, every evening before the children go home, staff take time to actually write something in the diary. And it's possibly just about something that's gone well for the child that day. It may be photographs of something that they've done really well that day. Or it can just be a message, or it may be that the child was a little bit upset during the day. But generally, if a child is upset, the phone call will happen as well. So that it's a kind of a multi-faceted tool, really, because it delivers all the positive messages about what's happened in the day, but it's also a way of kind of communicating with the parents where there's questions. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Just the parents are always letting us know through the diary or a phone call if the child hasn't slept well or hasn't eaten breakfast, just things that we need to take on board for the day and take it into consideration. We also write, as Melanie said, if there was something, you know, that the child has achieved in the day and it's important to celebrate with the parents, we also include that in the diary. What we've done during the day, really, especially for the younger children, if they've eaten their, you know, lunch, if they've drunk water, if they've gone to the toilet, quite important messages. So we write in the diaries every day, and we can say that the majority of our parents are writing back every day, and they say how their day has been at home.
They appreciate it, and sometimes they say something like, "Oh, you know, because I can't really communicate with my child. They can't talk to me. So when you tell me what they've done or how if they've been happy today, it really means a lot to them." So
yeah,
they're important things, the books.
Yeah,
thank you.
Anybody else?
Okay, one question for you. How do you audit those homeschool communication books and that they are kept as a positive form of communication?
So that's an interesting one. Obviously, the staff themselves know how to write in the book to keep it positive from the school's point of view. Sometimes we do get parents that will write things in the diary because they're upset about certain things. And there's often conversations, staff will come to one of the leadership team and say, how do I respond to this? Because it's more of a sensitive issue, but it's always a very positive response that we put back in the book. It's never, I suppose it's never kind of addressing straight away. It's thank you for your message, and then we will take into consideration, or we will be doing this. And sometimes whatever you write in the diary back, we will check it because people will want it checked to make sure it's not going to be inflammatory going back. But we will always say and recommend, give mom a little call. And when the phone call happens, generally that the problem isn't as bad as it looks in the book. You know, sometimes you write things and they can get misinterpreted or you see them in a certain way. But once the phone call has been made, so our response to anything that is quite sensitive is very much, thank you for your message. This is what we will do. So we are okay. And staff will always look for guidance if they get a message that they need to respond to, that they feel is sensitive and has to be dealt with in a sensitive way. Yeah, so there's always conversation. Yeah, I mean, what we do, sometimes what we do is when we do have children where there can be kind of issues, you know, with parents writing to us, sometimes we keep those books at the end of the year, just for a year, so that, you know, we've got them there to help us the following year, because it always kind of informs you, doesn't it? If something comes up again, we're able to kind of look back, and it just helps us then when we're dealing with those sensitive situations.
So question there, because I know we use the homeschool links very much to know the books that you use, and to know it's follow the same framework, and I suppose in a way it's the audit. We intermittently audit the books. The staff will come to us for guidance if there's a concern raised in the book. I think it's really good when you say we do keep the books as well. Do you share those books with, say, the tutor for the next year, so they can have because I know there's obviously we share when a student moves up to a different tutor group, there's sharing that information. Sometimes there's information within those books. Do you share those with the next tutor and say, look, this is here if you need to go back and just, even though there's lots of information already on databases and sharing of information, just
yes, we do.
Okay, you're thinking, oh, that's a good idea. Okay,
because we have when it comes to the transition for the children to move into their new classes, we provide time for the staff to meet each other. So they get to talk to each other about the children moving up and moving across. So everybody gets to talk about the children and pass that sort of information across. Because we also keep a pupil notes diary, that's shared as well. It helps support the child moving into the new class, gives an understanding really.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you.
We have also had one comment in the chat that I'll read out, unless Katie Oliver is able to join in. But she's just said that Class Dojo is an excellent free app. It allows photos and messages to be shared. Also allows parents to post successful achievements they've had at home, which can be stored in pupil portfolio. This can be monitored at any time online. It can also be used as a reward system for children, which parents and carers have access to see what they got reward points for that day. So that was quite an interesting perspective. Oh, Katie's here now. Don't know if you want to add anything, Katie.
When we was in the chat room, there was a couple of people there that said that they use it too. It's really, really easy. It's a bit like Facebook in terms of you can see everybody's post, or you can private message, and the children love the reward points, which the parents can see what they've achieved that day. And you could also post learning on there, so it can be used during lockdown periods or for homework, and it can also be used to create pupil portfolios, which the parents have access to. There's loads to it, and it's free. It's worth having a look at. It saves homeschool diaries getting lost or the dog eating them.
Yeah. I mean, Katie, we've heard a lot about it as well and agree. It sounds really good, because we were thinking of looking at that going forward, because we haven't used that at the moment. We've kind of stuck to our Google Meets really, but yes, and lots of schools say it's really good. Yeah, I think it'd be good to explore as well. Yeah,
that does actually sound really, really good, because I know we're trying to save the earth as well, and it is save the planet, and we do go through an awful lot, and some parents, it's the homeschool link book is only so much, and you've usually gone by with some families you've gone through that by Christmas. With communication levels, so you're then having to, and then you actually go to the large ring binder document. But now I'll actually, that Class Dojo I will actually send on as a recommendation to my senior leaders, to maybe it's something we can look into, just to see what it's like. Thank you for that. That's a really good idea. Thank you.
Last minute time for any more questions for the group at Castlebar, if anyone has any. If not, I will thank you all for the contributions that you've had today, for those that have joined in the discussion and asked questions, and of course all of you staff at Castlebar for the preparation work you've done into your Sharing Leading Practice event. I think everyone would agree it's been really useful, and again the videos have really added an extra dimension to what you presented, so thank you so much.